Okay.
And then let's do this. All right. So, I mean, it's Tuesday and we're having another Tuesday talk, right? And I'm Shahadra. People call me Shay. And you're?
Sherry.
What do people call you?
Sherry, or, sometimes a human.
Sometimes a human. And you're the one who inspired the title of this podcast called Humans Discussing Things, which I felt was just like the best title ever. So here we are, Humans Discussing Thing, Tuesday Talks. Today we're talking about like mindfulness, which is always just like a way of life for us. But you had one very specific topic that you wanted to tackle today. Can you please introduce it? Because I'm actually really excited about this.
I was wanting, well, first I just wanted to say about like the last episode, like that I was really dosed up about that and so like emotionally rocked that, I mean, honestly, I just want to say, I think I labeled the emotion as happy, but the gratitude I felt towards you, I just want to say thank you for those deep sharing moments. Oh, I really appreciate it.
Like I said, like you bring it out of me, and like between you and Dr. Yu, like I've really, like I'm just thankful that like I've met you guys. You get what I'm saying? Like things, like I know like I'm the same person, but like something's different that I can't name and I can't put my heart on, but like it feels just amazing. You get what I'm saying? So I just like thank you, for picking up the phone when I call and for like, responding and like doing this with me. Like to me, it just rocks my mind that we're able to do this. And like my hope is that like other people just listen to the message and hear it and like it helps them, because it helps us too. And like it's just fun. Like this is fun for me. Like who else do I get to talk to about like some deep stuff that I'm just like, every time we speak, I'm like, oh wow. I have to take a minute because I'm just like, yo, you just blew my mind. Like this is crazy. But it's so fun.
I feel it too. And I feel like we can't even describe, we kind of mentioned last time a bit about language. It's like we can't even describe what we're getting. It's like that Carlos does things in like, in a different way, the mind, body, and spirit, or soul, or I think ET calls it essence or inner being. Like I don't even know how to start describing what we get even, so I think it's funny that you just got to experience it. You can't really find the words.
Exactly. And that's what it is, the human experience, or whatever it is. That's just being, presence, awareness, all of that, all the good stuff.
In such an unconventional, unique way.
Absolutely. And like that's the beauty of it, right? It's like here we are, we can talk about what we're feeling, but we're each like, there's similarities, but there's also differences, because at the end of the day, we're two different souls, we're two different, humans, we're two different whatevers. But like we're able to meet in like the middle ground, and like with whoever else is listening or watching or whatever. So that's awesome.
Our unique perspective, but without the illusion of separation, really.
Ding. Ding.
We need a bell.
Well, I just like added it in for sport.
That's fun.
All right, so introduce us.
Sorry. Okay,
Tell me about it.
How about charity, and what do you really get out of it?
All right. So you have to tell me more, though. Tell me more, like one.
Okay,
why did you come up with this topic, and
what inspires it? What inspires your drive for charity, for wanting to give to others? Is it particularly something you're going to get out of it? Well, we all get something out of it. That's kind of the trick, right? So is it a self-serving thing? Is it an influential thing? Is it a religious thing? I personally thought of it we just thought of it because I was going to do my own version of charity. So what do I personally get out of it? Like, is it an ego boost for me, or is it, am I seeing other people through my own broken eyes and wanting to build them up, or am I seeing them, as they are? So anyways, that's the introduction.
All right, so tell us about what, like, one, how did you even start with your charity, and tell us what it is.
Okay, so that's a kind of two-pronged thing. So I don't really have a charity. I actually looked up ET's idea on charity, and I didn't actually find him saying anything. He just kind of has his own, where he takes donations so that he can, you know, spread his words. So I haven't really started a charity. I just informally go with whoever's about or myself and just do that. But there were inspirations that I had, experiences that led me to it. So
Okay.
I
And you
think that's a lot about it for me, my own experiences, and yeah, and then just wanting to still be with that.
okay. So now, like you mentioned that with the winter jacket or winter coat drive, is that kind of what it
Mhm.
is?
Yeah, not so much a drive as I take my children's leftover coats and tidied them up. And that's the first time we donated. We ended up having 4 coats between, you know, winter and spring jackets. So that was the first time we did it. And we thought, wow, that's great. What else can we do? So then we would just, you know, pick up a couple coats and go to areas that we know we can meet up with other people and give them out and just randomly do that. And I notice most people think we're being religious about it because they say bless you. And I don't necessarily say bless you, but they say bless you to me. And I think, oh, interesting.
Okay. Okay, okay. That's actually really cool. And I'm honestly like you a lot. Like I grew up Catholic, so when you say charity, I immediately go to, okay, I'm going to sound like a complete jerk right now, but it's just like it was something that was forced upon you, right? It's always how I grew up with it, especially as a kid, is that in high school, it's a requirement. You cannot graduate without it, without doing your charity. And I remember this specifically because it was literally what made me stay back, because I had such a tough year in my last year of graduating in high school. I finally did my credits, completed all my credits, was getting ready to go to my commencement, and then found out that I didn't actually graduate because I didn't complete my hours, it was infuriating. I understood it, but it was also like, how I took it was like, I was struggling myself. I don't have the time, I don't have the energy, I don't have the resources to be giving it away, to be giving that stuff away. You get what I'm saying? I had to work, I had to survive. And then for them to essentially hold me back, right? Which means that I wouldn't be able to enter in my college program over something that I felt was so stupid. It really pissed me off. It was really such a negative experience. Looking back, the funniest thing, which is the craziest thing actually, is that I actually did the work. I just didn't have the paperwork for it. And because I didn't have paperwork for it, they didn't consider it, which to me, it just really messed up my mind how I saw charity. So I remember looking, like, I don't know the Bible. I don't know it by heart. I'm not one of those people. Like I said, I was forced into religion. So you just like, it goes in one ear and out the other. But I remember, I think it was Thomas Aquinas who basically said, like,
Mm,
charity is love,
mm,
right? And if you understand love as, you get what I'm saying, that love is just whatever is in your heart. Like, truthfully, how I saw it was what feels good to you in your heart. And I didn't need somebody telling me that I had to go do something to give back, right? The funniest thing is that you know, I used to volunteer at a homeless shelter, right? When I was like a month away from becoming homeless myself. And
mm.
it just was just like, oh wow, like I was doing that because at that time, like it just felt good to me. You get what I'm saying? Creating all these things for like these kids to do who, like, you know, like, yeah, you don't have a home, but who cares? Like, we have each other and we can do something really great in this space. You get what I'm saying? And I'm here and like I'm doing this because I love to do it. Nobody forced me to do it. And then like I just didn't see the need, like it just, to this day, it messed me up. But I really do connect with your energy. Like I didn't realize how much one I had and how much need there is until I faced a lot myself. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes, that I really feel that for sure. That's that is really powerful. I see, I can imagine. So I was also Catholic, so I can really hear those things that you're saying. That's why I just like, I felt that very deeply. That's come up a lot for me lately also. It's a wary obligation, I find, because you're wary of it, you know, when you're introduced it in such a way. Because I remember we would go and you know, we would sing at the retirement homes, and we would go to, you know, the local soup kitchen and help out. And we were required to learn those things. But I got really excited about it personally because the conversations I had with people and realizing like, you know, their energy and just so into it. I was just so into it when I was really young. And then I remember saying, I want to open a soup kitchen. This is exciting. I want this to be my job. And they said, oh, you're being so silly. That's not a job. You need to you need to volunteer, right? And I'm like, no, but this is what I want. No, you'll have to have a real job. So I just remember how crushed I was, kind of like, how can it not be a job? I could spend, you know, 24/7. I've always made it somehow my life because of that. So although I find you may be introduced to it through an obligation, sometimes what you get from it, you know, you get the seed planted, I think.
Yes.
And I understand with the community service, they want to make good members of society, and it can in most cases. So there are a lot of kids that struggle with that. I think it's interesting. My daughter switched schools and they lost her hours, so she had to redo them really quickly in the last year, and felt kind of like put upon, because she does her own, you know, charity as well that she chooses. She does raise money for reptile shelters. Both my daughters do that because they don't get a lot of government funding, but that doesn't count because you're raising money. So she had to find yet again something else, like, you know, outside of her sphere that was acceptable. You know, so I understand it, but then at some point they have to see that, you know, for people to be giving of themselves and to be a good member of society, you want to make sure you're good first. So you're not full up 100%. What do you have to give? So there should be some program for children like that. Like, can we go inwards and see what this child needs? Maybe we can reach out to them instead of denying them, you know, something. Like, I shouldn't maybe necessarily be about denying them then at that point. It seems like contrary to their message in a way.
Yeah, it was just weird because, like you said, listen, I love when you actually step back. I actually love the message, right? Charity is being of service. At the end of the day, like, I know, listen, I'm not the richest person in the world, but I am a rich person. You get what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And being of service to somebody who needs you in any capacity feels amazing for the person who's actually helping. You get what I'm saying? It's never just a one-way street. Like, you may be helping somebody, but they're also giving you something back, right? And there's beauty in that. How it was introduced to me is like, okay, you're forced to do this one thing. Nobody's really checking up to see, okay, what exactly is the needs of the person who's doing it. They just assume. And that created a lot of contention in me. But like I said, the weirdest thing is, like, I was doing all that stuff beforehand. I didn't need a piece of paper. You know, people say it all the time with marriage. Like, no, if you're like, you know, you're my wife, you're my husband, it's like, I don't need a piece of paper to tell me that I'm married to you. Like, that to me is just ridiculous. Right. So here I was doing charity without calling it charity. And then, you know, being essentially, you know,
And
being
there's the words again, the label, the words again, the label of that is what gave it some suffering. Oh my gosh.
mm,
Shahadra.
and then,
Thank you.
no, like that's what it was. You get what I'm saying? And here again is the language, and not, because I was so young, not having the awareness around it,
Yeah.
and not having the language to express that,
Yeah.
right? If charity is love, how, like, there is no, what is the definition, right?
Yeah. That's
When you
true.
think about it.
And then I relate to your story about the homeless shelter because as a child, I had spent, you know, a while in different living situations. So youth shelters, and I had spent some time on the streets and, you know, some experiences with that. So this is where I get a little emotional because I actually feel very overwhelmed with emotion of just love and compassion of the majority of my experiences. Of course, there were some learning experiences that I wouldn't have been who I am without. also though, really the love and compassion that I felt, that I mean, of course I want to go back out there and feel that again, and share with people and give my time. You know, some people, they can't give their time and they can only give money. And that's great too, because it's a tool. Money is a perfect tool, and that makes them feel great too. So I could never even judge any way that people go about it. For me, it's my time, because I really enjoy the experience and the connectivity.
So fair enough. There's different, I guess, because we're all individuals, there's different ways that we each do charity every single day, right? Like, a mother who is, we'll take Halloween, for example. The mother who is sewing their child, a Halloween costume because it's something that you can't just go pick up at a Walmart. Like, is that not charity in the sense? You get what I'm saying? That's love. That's doing something for somebody that's outside of yourself. That's providing a service. You get what I'm saying? Yeah, that's your child, but so what? You don't think that that lesson that you just gave your child something, they're going to take that and they're going to go do something else special for somebody. Like, I'll never forget this. My aunt, who was like a huge long-term, she works in long-term care. And I always have this assumption, especially in our community, nurses are rich. Like, I'm going to say this, like growing up, if you were a Black woman and you were a nurse, the automatic assumption is that you're rich, right? My aunt had this friend who I knew was a nurse because they were like, they all kind of run together. And she was going through like a really bad divorce, to the fact that my aunt's like, oh, I guess she went over, and she had 2 kids at this point. And one of the girl was my age. And she was just like, she went over to visit her. She's like, she comes back into the car and she's like, okay, we're going to go grocery shopping. And I was like confused. I'm like, we just got a whole bunch of stuff, right? And I love going grocery shopping with my aunt because she was my rich auntie. So I would get everything. You get what I'm saying? Everything that I didn't have at home, we would get. So I was just like, weird, we're going grocery shopping again. And then she's like, oh, pick up the snacks that you think so-and-so, the girl's name would be. Us. Be like, oh, okay, are we grocery shopping for somebody else? Like, she has a car. Like, it was just weirded out to me. And then so I noticed, she's like, oh, can you help me bring in the stuff? So we grab all this cool stuff, like all this stuff that anybody would want. And then we bring the bags into her. And then she's like, oh, help me. I'm like, okay. So I helped her put them away. And then you kind of notice, like, okay, for what I thought, for somebody who's rich, I didn't expect an empty fridge. I didn't expect empty drawer. So here I am, my aunt's taking me and we're shopping for somebody and we're putting, these things in the house. And like, I remember like the woman kind of just like, talking to my aunt and like hugging me and stuff. And I was just like, huh? You get what I'm saying? It felt good because I was like, oh, I remember I got her like Gushers and like Dunkaroos. And I was like, oh, she's going to be flexing when she gets to school. And then when we finally got into the car, I was just like, auntie, like, what was that about? And she's just like, you know what? Sometimes life is like that sometimes, And I knew that if she needed something, I got her. And, I went to get she offered me some water. You get what I'm saying? That was all that she had. So I know that I have it, and that we have it, so we can provide it for somebody else. Why not? And I was just like, whoa, like it just blew my mind that one, you can't judge somebody's situation off of a job. That makes zero sense. 2, you can actually step outside yourself and do something nice for somebody else and fill somebody else's fridge. At the end of the day, you don't even have to say thank you. That was something that she did from her heart. And like, it's the weirdest thing because like now it's like that small moment, I see myself doing stuff like that all throughout the day. Like, I don't have to wait. Like, if I see a need, I'm going to fill it, especially if I have the capacity to do it. And like, that to me is, I guess, what, the Catholic institution was trying to instill at me. So here I am saying like, yo, you know what? I'm not going to do it. Like, nobody tells me what to do,
Yeah, you throw up some resistance because they're pushing.
And that's the thing. But like you said, they're trying to plant the seed. Who would I have picked it up if I didn't? If they didn't, maybe not. Because truth be told, I know a lot of people who just fake those notes and fake those notices, like, charity, why? And like, I remember being like, yo, like, really? I could have just faked this note and gotten my graduation and been on with my life. And here I am, stupid enough not to.
Yeah.
And just put myself in this situation. But it's just like, think about everything that they lost.
Yeah, that's the thing. They got exactly what they needed in that moment, though. That was their lessons come, right?
And the funniest thing is, it's like you run into these people later on and you're just like, wow, don't give up the opportunity, because like I said, you get way more out of it than you put into it, even if it's money, you know, even if it's time, even if it's energy.
Yeah, that energy is a big part of that. You get what you give. I mean, I random acts of kindness around me all the time. Everywhere I go, I see it, I'm part of it, I feel it. You know, that's because you get what you give. And it's just that simple with energy. It's, you know, scientific. You know, you put that energy out, it flows from you. You're going to see it all around. You're going to get that. People are always saying, oh, don't you see all this negative stuff that's coming around you? And I'm like, I see it when you bring it up.
But it's also like, hey, regardless of what is negative in the world, there's 10 times the amount of good. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not there, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like not every act of kindness is going to be blasted to the world.
True.
Right?
Very true.
So does
You
it make
hope you plant more seeds.
I truthfully, I don't know. I think there's a part of me that I think people do I think people generally, like the human beings, are generally good people, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's very few people in the world who literally just don't want to, like, you get what I'm saying, who want to take up as much as possible and like see suffering and not want to do anything about it. There's very, very few people who are actually like that.
Oh yeah,
And
I
just
feel that.
us as a society, like no one person has everything at every moment, right? Like we really depend on each other, and it's these little kindnesses that keep us human. You know, they keep us level-headed. They keep us grounded, and like that's beautiful. You get what I'm saying? Like imagine, it's kind of like ridiculous thinking like, wow, like even me thinking about it now, like how much times has kindness saved me in ways that I maybe haven't even noticed. You get what I'm saying? And
Oh
how much
yeah,
you got, like, you get what I'm saying? Like we are the beneficiaries of that, of kindness, and we don't even know.
absolutely.
So that's, yeah, charity, 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 charity.
And people are always inspiring me too. Like, I mean, I see it everywhere, just in inspiring acts. And I feel the same way you do, that people, I mean, we're inherently each other, you know, we're inherently the same. And,
Like
you
that.
know, when we just look at each other, you know, from my inner being to yours, then yeah, then you just, that's what you feel. That's what I see with people. I mean, sometimes, you know, they'll say, especially with a child, when you judge by age and you say, oh well, that child's just done, they're no good. And I think I laugh, because I mean, you don't do that on the vine. You don't say, oh well, I just assume this isn't going to grow and just pull it off. There's nothing wrong with it, you know, like give the child the chance. I just think it's so interesting, you know, to see that. I feel the way you do, that it's we need somebody to join the conversation with a view that sees it the opposite, because we both lead with the loving kindness, you know.
But like I said, you were saying how sometimes charity could become like kind of like this ego driven thing, right? And like, I guess, is it fair to say that ego is the opposite of mindfulness?
I think possibly. I mean, I'm sure you might want to elaborate on that, because I see ego as like your sense of self, right? And how much you identify with something. So your
Right.
ego has a place, like it'll keep you safe. You'll be like, oh, you know, I know not to swim farther than I can, just because I, you know, want to. My body can't handle. Okay, so I'm going to pull back. Like, right? You can. I think it has its place for survival, and you know, ego isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's always labeled as a bad thing. Oh, you have too much ego. I think ego can just be a bit blinding, maybe.
Okay. So when I say ego,
Over-identified.
I'm speaking of like Kanye West ego. I don't know if you get that reference. No. Okay.
Right.
So I'm talking about the ego that, you know, when you hear somebody like, when you hear like, you know, one of these big billionaires say, oh, they're going to give, you know, half their fortune to charity when they die. And you're just like, how much of that is actually from the heart? Because if that $45 billion that you have, that you're going to wait until you die to give. Why don't you just give it to people right now and make the difference while you're alive?
Mm.
So you kind of feel like, okay, that's clearly like an ego boost. That's something to put your name out there. That's something, you know, like a lot of the times people are like, oh, you know, they're doing that for the tax write-off, right? I remember seeing it too when you work in fundraising, and it's just like, oh, okay, what's the tax write-off on that? Okay, I'll give this amount because I know I can get this portion is going to be used as a tax write-off. And you're just like, oh wow, I didn't even understand the business of charity, because that's essentially what
the business of charity.
right?
I hear
And
you.
so that's where that's the context I'm speaking of with ego. You're saying like, you know, sometimes that's not a bad thing. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe, you know, 45 billion, somebody could use it after somebody.
Right? That's what I see it. Yeah.
But I mean, if it's done in the wrong, is there a wrong way? Like,
I don't know. I think you
it
get
feels,
what you give. So he gets whatever energy from that he's generated, and other people get money. So that's how I would see it.
whoa, I love how simple that is. I love how simple that is. But like the low person in me is just like, yo, that guy is a jerk. Like, why? Like, do it now. Like, you see it. I'll use, you know, even like politics. You get what I'm saying? Where they're like, okay, this amount of money is for this charity. And then you really run the numbers and you're just like, wait,
Yeah,
you
it's
get what
like
I'm saying?
this
Like,
much.
charity, like they're under, you know, there's always some huge scam associated with these big charities. And you're just like, okay, what exactly is going on? Who is really getting, who's really benefiting from this? And is it
Yeah,
being stolen from the people who actually need it?
that's true. That energy's out there as well. I mean, they're, you know, the self-serving way, but then that's the same thing. Then they get found out. We all find out. Look what happens. It becomes a whole thing. I just choose where I put my energy. So if I don't feel that I put trust, I gain trust, right, into a certain charity, I do my own thing. You know, I start the pan for the person's Tim Hortons behind me, or I, you know, make sandwiches and hand them out to everybody on the street, not discerning, just handing out sandwiches for fun, which now is not as COVID aware. So
That's not COVID friendly.
right. So, but yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I make my choices where I flow my energy, and I think they'll get what they give in time. So
So
but
there's
I
a
mean, again, I think, but the message, if you look at these colorful posters and the messages and the bright things that they put up, I think the message gets out there though, regardless.
okay. So it's like, you know what, charity is doing what you can in, you know, in a fashion that you trust. Charity doesn't have to be some huge corporation, you know, conquering some huge, you know, like it doesn't have to be some huge big thing. Charity could be the simple moments. Charity could be something as simple as, you know, handing out sandwiches or giving your jacket to somebody who you see needs it. And that's okay. That's just as powerful as everything else. And like you said, the energy from an exchange like that is sometimes even more powerful than the act itself.
Mm. Yeah. That just sparked a memory of what Dr. Yu said. He has traveled the world, you know, spreading his healing, and then he realized like the time that it was taking up, that he could do just as much good close to home. And I found that really powerful when he said that to me. I was like, wow, even, you know, a doctor could go anywhere and do this, and he chooses to be right here with us. So
What a blessing that has been.
right.
But, oh
Gratitude.
man. See, and that's that's really powerful. Because there is no, you know, there is no end to it. Like now with the internet, right? He learned mindfulness, like Jon Kabat-Zinn, all that stuff is available on the
Mm.
internet. That can help anybody who can access that information. Like that's not, you know, anybody with the internet can access that information, and that's a huge act of charity. And that's
Yeah.
something that, you know, he's
Yeah.
just like, hey, this is what I can do, this is what I will do. You know, send that information out into the world, send that positive energy, that loving openness into the world, and see what comes back. And
Oh,
like
yeah.
that creates a tsunami of like, you know, good energy and us all kind of just going forth. That
It's true. There's like, it's like 23 minutes or something on YouTube, the John Kabat-Zinn 9 attitudes of mindfulness or something. And I think like that's the core notes of life. We would only have to show that and you're good.
Seriously. Seriously. So let me ask you this. What are your favorite ways? I know you mentioned I call it a code drive just because I remember hearing that in school. What are like some of your, I don't know if you want to talk about your favorite charities or your favorite acts of charity?
Yeah, I get inspired in the moment. That's my favorite. One time my daughter Raina, who we've met, was at the store and she was buying shrimp. So not something that was a necessary thing. It was something she was making a special meal for just herself. And the debit card was not working. So the person behind her paid for it for her, just a random act and she was so inspired by that. Then we do that once in a while. We just randomly pay for somebody's groceries and just walk away. Or one time when we first had Raina and we were struggling to buy diapers, and somebody had handed me a coupon and said, listen, I'm not struggling, here you go. I guess. So now if I'm in a store and we see a young couple buying diapers, we say, listen, we're buying the diapers, and we always just pay for the diapers for them and say, now you can put your money towards other things. So really just in the moment things that we kind of build upon in our daily lives, not a charity I could really put a name to like that.
No, that's amazing. And diapers are crazy expensive. I don't know. What? Who came up with this concept? That is, I'm sorry. Like, I have my nephew, and the amount of money, I'll say, I can't even say invested, thrown out. Literally, it's a piece of, fabric that a baby craps in.
Yeah, and have you tried washing the cloth ones? I mean, no thank you. They never come clean, ever.
Crazy amounts of money. So I know that is a blessing for real. Actually, it's funny how you even said that. I remember returning something to Amazon and speaking to the lady, because it was just like off, and she's just like, you know what? I'm like, oh, she was offering a credit. I was like, oh, cool. I'm like, oh, that's perfect. I could just put it towards diapers. And she's like, I'm going to give you $5 extra just because diapers are expensive. I was
oh
like,
my gosh, I love that.
that's like, right? She didn't have to do that. It was just crazy because it's like, that's what I was thinking about in that moment. Like, okay, I'm going to get this money. It's going to go right back into diapers.
I was so happy to hear that. $5 is a funny synchronicity, because that used to be my thing to leave, like when I first started. So I didn't have much to give. I would always make sure I gave $5, and I would buy my box of diapers and then stick it under the next box of diapers, so that when somebody would lift the box, there'd be $5 towards it. That was my way of like moving the coupon energy forward.
That's creative. That's creative. I don't think I would have thought of that, but that's amazing. And you just thought, like, you know what? Hey, let me just make somebody else's life a little bit easier, because I've been there.
Yeah, that's it. That's experience, right? We come back all around to it, that I think we get our charity through our experiences. So that'd be my answer.
Oh, oh my gosh, that hits hard, because that's one of the two biggest charities in my life that I've really, or technically there's three, but there's two bigger ones now, are Sick Kids and Sunnybrook Hospital. Crazy how they're hospitals. And it was just because an experience that I had that, brought my loved ones to those places, that literally, well, like one of them like really gave my aunt a second chance. She had a stroke, and Sunnybrook was just doing some amazing research at the time, some amazing interventions that allowed her to come out of it with her cognition still intact, which is, even a few years prior just wasn't possible. But it was because, through their fundraising efforts that, from people like, and it doesn't have to be like, it could be $5, you guys, $5 from, 5 people. That's money. Like this money can be, projected forward. Like, think about it like this, right? $5 for a $25 advertisement can bring in 50 million bucks. And that's not a joke, especially in this day and age with digital ads.
Yeah, so, I feel that. And you just brought that out Yeah, I would agree with those two as well. I've had an experience with Sunnybrook. They were amazing. With I knew somebody who had been paralyzed, and he did very well in their program. And I was born in Sick Kids Hospital. I was the first baby born there, so that's just a synchronicity.
What?
I know, right? Isn't that weird?
Wait, what? Okay, wait. Explain. I gotta listen. Explain. I'm listening.
No, I was, yeah, my mom apparently didn't know she was pregnant, and she went in and had me. And there's a underground tunnel to the hospital, which I cannot remember the name they brought her to afterwards. But yeah, and she was underage, so she was in the children's hospital. So yeah, they were not used to a baby that was born at that size, because they would get the, ICU babies. So yeah, there's a picture. I have a picture somewhere. I don't know where it is right in the moment, but yeah, there's a picture I've shown Dr. Yu. I think it's an interesting synchronicity between us, because yeah, I mean, I've thrown some money in the jar for them, because I'm thinking, hey, and my husband actually had to stay at Sick Kids Hospital. At the same time, I was at a different hospital. We didn't know each other then. We were like children, so there was like more synchronicities just to build.
Sorry, wow. So Sick Kids, I know, like, for if people are listening to this that aren't from Canada,
Yeah,
Toronto is like literally one of the most famous
it
research
is for sure
hospitals.
international. So they do take children internationally.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. So like that, I don't want to say it's like our pride and joy, but it's like, you get what I'm saying? It's that stature of a hospital. And they've done clearly some amazing things. You get what I'm saying? I mean, like, is there another international hospital for children?
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I don't know either, but I don't think there is one as most popular as Sick Kids. And just
Yeah.
personally, like you said, from personal experience, the how I was treated there was second to none. You get what I'm saying? And they're going to be a charity that is always going to be in my heart. I'm always thinking about them. Right now, they have, a couple of campaigns going on. The Sick Kid, it's VS, the Sick Kids versus, where they have the kids in like all these like cool poses, just, because there's kids there that are in the fight for their life. And sometimes that's all they need is a little, and the money that we pour into, that type of institution, like, trust me, they're using it for good. It's not being wasted. So yeah, those are two of my biggest ones. My third one is Scott Mission. And again, Toronto, because I grew up in Toronto. I was born in Toronto. Scott Mission is actually, it started off as a male shelter. And what they did is, one of the couples there ended up starting a summer camp for kids who just didn't, for kids from the inner city, as they call it. Right. So I just couldn't, like, I would never, ever have the opportunity to attend camp if it wasn't for Scott Mission. And to this day, like, when I say the best memories of my childhood was at Scott Mission camp, even though I might have pretended and said that I hated going, like, every child that I know that went there had the most amazing experience. And it was literally something that you can go to. Like, my mom could sign us up and you didn't have to pay a thing, all down to like, sometimes like you need stuff for like, to go to camp, like you're going to need, blankets and a suit. Like they took care of everything. And I've never met anybody, who's actually been like, yeah, I give to Scott Mission, but clearly it's a charity that's still going on. So like those three places are the places that, like, maybe it's just the way, the universe works, but those are my three big ones. So like you said, I mean, everybody has something that's clear and dear to their heart. I know my friend who's a dog person who still fosters dogs. And these are dogs from literally all over the world that, they funnel in through a Toronto charity. I can't remember the name. I can add it to the comments later. And like, that's her thing, that's where she gets the most joy. And me personally, I couldn't do it. I've been afraid of dogs since a child. I'm not doing it, but I'm like, thank God there is somebody like you, who knows how to treat these dogs. So sometimes these dogs come from, you hear the stories and the packages that come from them, and you're just like, how is this going on in the world? And then like, I remember I asked her, I'm like, wait, if you couldn't do that, then what would happen? And then she looked at me and she'd be like, they would like, they gas them
Yeah.
essentially. I don't even know if that's the proper term, but it
Yeah,
just
I know what you mean though.
it was a huge thing. And I was just like, whoa. Like, lucky for us, you know, I'll give to hospitals and show,
Yeah.
you know, to protect the kids, and
And the
together here we
people
are.
who don't see the separation, even with animals, even with plants, like they see, you know, as opposed to somehow some hierarchy. We always keep building this hierarchy of animals and people, and I never really grasped that. I kind of think, you know, we all just are beings, but
We're all here together. We might as well take care
mm,
of each other.
beautifully put.
You know, it makes yeah.
So
Dogs
in
like
essence, I think we agree, you know, whatever you're doing, that's awesome.
yeah, and like I said, like it's gonna be something. It might not even make sense to me. I'm just like, huh, what? You give
Yeah,
to, in all
right?
honesty, I'm thankful because sometimes it's that thing that you don't know about. You know,
Yeah.
like I would never. I've never thought of doing
Lawyers stress relief program or something.
it can literally
Could
be anything.
exist.
Somebody was talking about a charity for people with developmental needs. And
Mm.
that's not something that I come up against, but it's just like, oh my God, thank God that you're into it. So I'm more aware of it.
Oh,
Will I give my energy? Not necessarily, but here, you know, here's some, you know, money. I don't know what it's gonna do, but that's what I can do in the moment. You get what I'm
mm.
saying? And now
Oh
you
yeah.
carry that like, okay, wow, it just makes you more aware, like, oh wow, you know, and it's just like all these people who are working on these little, and I'm just saying little, but like not necessarily, like all these people working on these different projects, and it's allowing the world to run in a way that essentially we're all, hopefully we're
Mm.
all being taken care of in some
Yeah.
capacity,
All threads of one web.
right?
Yeah.
And that I think is the message of charity.
Mm. I think that's well put. Maybe we should end that because that's really good.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Are you sure you don't want to add any more? I know you.
No, I'm blessed. Thank you.
All right. So thank you so much for joining me on this.
And
Another,
thank you.
this is our second episode, man. And it felt good.
As always, much love.
So, I mean, now I'm hungry.
I remembered water at least, so
Oh
if
my
I
God, I
can.
don't want my water, but it's all good. You know, there's a charity for clean water too. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's it.
So there's a charity for everything because, you know,
I mean, the
I might
basic
be
building
blessed,
block
but
of life.
everybody-
We're all water.
clean water is a blessing. And not everybody has access to that. And I'm glad for the person who, you know, who takes that seriously. Because how close are we? Like it could have been, you know, just like that. We could have been born on that other side.
That's
And
true.
all the things we take for granted right now, you know, are a luxury to some other people, like water, right? Even now, like internet, Wi-Fi,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Where kids who are struggling to do online schooling because they don't have free access.
yeah.
So
I
that's a
think I
thing.
think it was the prime minister or a politician said that it's a basic Canadian right. It should be a basic Canadian right. And they're working on some kind of universal program now. I think that's interesting. So
That's
somebody's on it.
it absolutely should be. You get what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
it is. It should be. Because if
Yeah.
you can't get your education, you can't be in class. Like, how else are you supposed to learn? And then we say that education is a right to kids,
Mm, mm.
right? But yeah, so any way you can, you know, in the little ways, in the simple ways, in the big ways, you guys go do something beautiful today. All right? Thank you,
Awesome.
Sherry, for this
Thank you.
conversation. Honestly, it's gonna stick in my heart. Now, anytime I have probably a couple winter jackets. Let me know when you're doing your next drive, and I'll get them over
Oh,
to you.
that's awesome.
All right?
You're the best. I love
No,
you,
you're the
Shadra.
best. I didn't even know I could do something like that. I was just gonna probably throw it out. I didn't even think about it. But thank you for bringing that to my awareness.
Awesome. Thanks for being a part of things. I mean, come on, that's connectivity.
Love it. All right, man. You have a good one.
Out.